AM 1220 KHTS. That's your hometownstation.com. This is T. I am here with Dr. Proctor. It's an hour where we have the opportunity to peek over the shoulders of medical professionals to sort of see what is going on in the world of medicine, how we can be better advocates for our own health, our loved ones, and in today's where we're starting to kind of look over the bed sheets at what they're calling the silver tsunami, where a lot of the aging population is becoming more and more an issue. Hospitals are being impacted because of various things going on where people have more access to medicine. The show, Dr. Proctor, is primarily an opportunity to have conversation, to give you a chance to sort of start to think about things you should be looking at, perhaps tests you should be having, being your own best advocate. With me today, I have Dr. Sai Hassan. His office is Pediatric Adult Endocrine. They're located in Newhall on Peachland Avenue. If you'd like to learn more about them, their website is ca.pegilbert.com, and their phone number is 661-253-4420. What we're here to talk about today is a little bit about diabetes. Now, diabetes is kind of a blanket term that covers a lot of areas of metabolic disease where the body's not properly processing food as energy. There's type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, and gestational diabetes. And today, again, we're going to focus primarily on type 2 diabetes. Dr. Hassan, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, T. It's a pleasure.
Okay, one of the things, there are people who are at risk for type 2 diabetes, and one of the reasons I want to bring it up again in speaking about something they're referring to now as the silver tsunami, there's type 2 diabetes is one of the things that come about not just family history, race, and ethnicity, but age is a really huge factor in type 2 diabetes, along with being overweight or obesity, hypertension, which is typically associated with the body that's reached a certain point, and abnormal lipid levels, etc. In your practice in dealing with diabetes, and I know you are also affiliated with Oakmont, one of our wonderful senior living facilities here in the Santa Clarita Valley, when your patients come into you, what are some of the first questions when they are thinking that they need to have their blood sugar checked? I know I always say never go to the internet because it's never what you think it might be, because the internet can be a scary place. But there are some real hallmarks, aren't there, for symptoms if someone's thinking they might have diabetes. Can you walk me through a little bit of those?
Well, that's a great question. And first of all, it turns out that a lot of people are picked up with diabetes and they don't really know it. And that's why it is such a dangerous condition. And that's why it's important to continue seeing your doctor and just to be aware. As you said, self-awareness is really the key. A lot of people are picked up just by routine tests. So it turns out that everybody has their own individual diabetes, and everybody's a little bit different. Some people actually don't feel anything.
So the symptoms can be that small, and that, because I know they talk about things like your increased thirst and frequent urination. I didn't realize extreme hunger was one of the hallmarks of the possibility of diabetes. I know unexplained weight loss, that could be just about anything, and this is why it gets really frightening if you go on the internet and you just throw those things in. You're gonna frighten yourself. Fatigue, irritability, and now that's just me getting older. Some of these are just me getting older. But blurred vision and slow healing, there are some things they could be aware of, but a lot of times, like you're saying, patients, they might not know that's happening.
They may not know it, and they may just get used to a new normal. But you're absolutely right. There are people who have this dramatic weight loss, and they're not really trying, or they suddenly find themselves drinking a lot, and they say, oh, well, it's summer, and maybe it's just hot out there, or they're urinating a lot. They're getting up in the middle of the night to urinate.
And they're thinking, well, that's just being older.
That's just getting older,
right?
They might have an increased size of prostate, so they're thinking, well, I'll check into it. I'll call my doctor tomorrow. And, tomorrow call never happens. And
Right.
so
You get busy.
people get busy, and then it just kind of rolls on. So that's why it's important to always see your doctor, every 6 months, every 1 year, and then to be aware. People do have these dramatic onsets also, where you can have this sudden weight loss. You can notice, or your spouse notices.
Now, I have to tell you, the people in my age group, if they were suddenly experiencing weight loss, unfortunately, our society and the media has made that like a really good thing. Oh, yay,
Right.
you. But this is actually something to be very concerned about. And I've seen so many times in the last 20, 25 years where I've had very dear friends lose a tremendous amount of weight, and they just think, well, I must be eating better, or I'm more active, or I started a workout program. And that really is something you need to be aware of.
You have to watch out for that.
Yeah.
And especially if you have a family history of diabetes, and then a program like yourself, and people just becoming more aware. So they'll know the difference between, hey, I'm just eating healthier versus I've got maybe diabetes setting in.
Now, one of the things I would like to talk about before we move on is the complications that come from diabetes. It's a very serious disease, and if it is something that can, and we'll talk about things like prevention and how we can maintain a particular lifestyle to stay away from that, but let's talk a little bit about the complications, because this is a devastating disorder for people, and it is so critically important to manage blood sugar levels. And I'd like to ask you a question. I know that I've read a number of articles that talk about our taste buds changing as we get older, and one of the last things we lose is the taste for sweet. And it almost seems like it's counterintuitive, like our body's working against us, the little bugger.
That's right. That's right. So complications are the ones that are most feared. Diabetes accounts for the most common reason for blindness. So
That's one of the most common.
Most common reason.
Wow.
And it's the most preventable reason for blindness. So
cataracts, glaucoma, the things that come with that can sometimes be related to disorder in blood
exactly.
sugars. Wow.
And we've had patients who go see an ophthalmologist, maybe their vision is blurry, like you said earlier, and then it's discovered that it's all because of diabetes.
Wow. So it's just, we really do become human Jenga. I've said that before, where you take one thing away or you add one thing and suddenly we need to be aware of that. Okay. So and that's one of the most important things we have to our sense of independence. Is
That's
our
right.
vision.
That's
so
right.
we don't want to lose that.
So if you're starting to have blurriness, if it's unexplained and it's not just, I'm getting older, think about, especially with that family history, consider that diabetes may be setting in. And it's something that you can prevent along with other things, the kidney damage, the nerve damage.
I know that's a big
heart damage. So all those things.
The idea that can be the ones that literally the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to diabetes. I mean, we do often hear things about cardiovascular disease as we get older, narrowing of the arteries, things that can happen. But the idea that diabetes can be prevented, type 2 diabetes, again, we're talking with Dr. Hassan, who's an endocrinologist, and today specifically type 2 diabetes, it's something that can be dealt with and managed in so many different ways. Skin conditions?
It can cause rashes on the skin. There's a unique thickening of the skin that can happen. That's usually when somebody's had diabetes for a long time and they're not taking care of it.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely skin conditions can take place, as well as all the other things that you mentioned.
And you hear a lot about the nerve damage, which we've all seen the ads where they talk about diabetes and tingling and burning pain and indigestion. I didn't realize it's something that can lead to nausea, vomiting, constipation, diarrhea, ED for men. I mean, nerve damage is critical. And again, there's the the sense of if you don't have your health, you really do. You start to lose your independence. You start to lose your sense of self. There's a great loss of joy in life when you have all of these issues. And diabetes can be so debilitating. And type 2 diabetes, something that comes on, can many times you're at risk just because you're aging.
Right, and so it's such a gradual process. So again, very important to maintain your visits and awareness of your body, your family history. And it's always good to, when you have a family reunion, just talk about it. Pop, Mom, did you have diabetes when you were growing up, or is there anybody else in the family that maybe I don't even know about that developed diabetes?
You know what? That's really interesting. That you really should give families permission to have these conversations, especially the family reunion. That's a brilliant idea. People will play games, shoot pictures, sit around and shoot the breeze. At the front door, they should have a sign-in. Yeah, you get to tell us who you are, how you're related, and any medical issues, because that is such a big key.
That's right. And I've had patients. I'll tell them, hey, go talk to your parents, go talk to relatives of yours. Why don't we, right here in the office, go ahead and call your family and find out, do they have diabetes? So maybe the icebreaker can be, my doctor asked me to
ask you these questions.
Yeah, to ask you these questions.
And I've had this conversation before, that when it comes to big issues and health and life decisions, et cetera, we seem so uncomfortable to have those conversations, but it is so critical to our well-being. And then again, well-being for even your family members. I mean, how enlightening it would be to have one of your aunts or uncles say, oh yeah, so-and-so in our family. You might even be able to help your parents or other relatives with their medical issues.
Yeah, it's a tough topic, but I don't mind anybody using me as an icebreaker. And
throwing you under the bus?
I don't mind that. And one of the other things that we talk about is assisted living, residential care. That's another difficult topic. You mentioned the Grace and Ami, and so Oakmont, which is a facility here in Santa Clarita Valley, does a great job.
One-stop shopping for all of that.
And it's amazing. That's a topic that's really difficult to talk about.
It is difficult, and we need to do it not just for our family members and our loved ones, but for ourselves, because the idea that there's such an impact now on the doctors and hospitals, because a lot more people are able, thank goodness, in our country to get medical care, but there is a huge onslaught in your offices and the medical professionals, that if we can kind of be our own best advocates, again, it's the purpose of this show, is giving people permission to kind of peek over the shoulders and take care of themselves.
And to do it as a group effort, because frankly, medicine is inundated. We have so many folks that are, luckily for us, I have so many 80, 90-year-old patients that come in, and it's fantastic.
We're living longer,
so it's a team effort. So,
yes.
Doctors, frankly, can't do it all. Health professionals can't do it all. And so people just being aware and talking about it amongst themselves. I love it when there's more than the patient coming into the office, when a spouse comes in, when a caretaker comes in.
It's a team,
yeah.
Especially with diabetes, there is a lot of talk about team management, your medical team, and who manages that. And we'll talk about that in our second half. Family history, we did speak about that. Having a blood relative with diabetes, it significantly increases your risk. And race and ethnicity is also tremendous. African American, Asian American, Latino, Hispanic American, Native American, or Pacific Islanders have a greater likelihood. Now, this is how the body is built, where we're just not breaking down, as we were saying, the food as energy. It's an glucose issue, and a lot of people think, it's sugar. No, it's carbohydrates and the balance of everything that you put in your body.
There's an interesting theory that was figured out a long time ago, that there's certain cultures and certain races, like you take a Native American, for example, as the environment, it was a feast or famine sort of thing. And so there's this thing called the thrifty gene. And so people had adapted, you're going to not be able to eat during the winter. And it was a basic thing. So if food is
We
scarce...
haven't evolved that much beyond our backgrounds.
We haven't. We haven't. So nowadays, food is plenty.
Yeah.
So people are eating all the time. They don't need this thrifty gene anymore. And so you wind up developing diabetes.
Interesting. I'm American Indian, and I know that I don't process alcohol like some people can. I laugh. I tell people I'm a half a drink girl, half a glass of wine, and please don't fill it, because I get terribly, terribly ill, and I know that that's something I cannot do.
Right. You can't escape your genes.
You can't escape your genes. You can't do that. After the age of 45, your risk increases for diabetes type 2. Being overweight, being 20% over your optimal weight. So let's say you're someone, we've all heard about those insurance charts where they tell you what you should be for your height and weight. And some people, can that be an issue if they carry a little more adipose tissue, a little more fat on their body as opposed to muscle? That's something to consider.
And nowadays, unfortunately, a lot of people in our country are overweight. There's something like 50% of people are overweight.
50% in the country?
50% are overweight. So if you're overweight, like you said, you're 20% overweight, you're at tremendous risk for diabetes. Now, the good news is that once you are diagnosed with diabetes and you're told, hey, I can lose weight, that diabetes will go away. So that's the best news ever.
Your type 2 diabetes, when it's something that comes on as you get older, it is definitely something that we're going to talk about prevention, and we're going to talk about treatment in our next segment. And we will talk about losing that little bit of weight and how that can be important. Hypertension, and the idea that even if you have high blood pressure, this is something that you should be looking at, also managing that, because this is a factor that weighs in also, does it not?
Right. Once you have diabetes, you have to be worried about three things: the diabetes itself, blood pressure, and your cholesterol level. So you have to take care of all three things all at the same time. And guess what's the one thing that can help all of those is losing weight.
Wow, it's like an ad for a weight loss clinic, because really that at 50% of the population, and it's not as, and there's a number of mindsets that you have to kind of get into to get to where you can drop that weight. But it's so critically important, again, because you are at risk for what is a manageable disease, what's a manageable metabolic issue for type 2 diabetes. Again, we're talking with Dr. Sai Hassan, who is from Pediatric Adult Endocrine in Newhall. We'll go over some of his information in a little bit. Doc, when people come into your office and they're going to be tested, tell me very quickly, what are the tests they're going to come up against?
Well, in our office, we have a machine that can not only check your blood sugar, it can check what your sugars have been on an average for the past 2 months. This is called the hemoglobin A1C.
Right.
And it's a very important test. Everybody should get this.
Do you have to fast for the A1C?
You don't have to fast
Just
for the A1C.
Just come in the office.
You can come into the office.
And it's like a ghost account of what you've been doing for a while.
Exactly.
We love that.
Yeah.
And then a fasting blood sugar test, that is something you actually do have to come in without eating in the morning, right?
Fasting test, you'd want to come in the morning, but to prove that somebody has diabetes can be done non-fasting.
Okay, and then the random blood sugar test, that's something they can do at different times?
They can do at different times. That's what we recommend. Somebody wants to develop diabetes is to do random tests, because we want to get a smattering of the actual sugar levels, not just fasting. Fasting is sort of
what's happening when you're eating? Right?
And you want some after eating too.
Yeah.
So you want a feel for how well your body's handling the sugar load.
So you want to cover everything. And then there's the oral glucose test. That takes a little longer, doesn't it?
That takes a little longer, and it's becoming less and less important.
This is good because of the A1C?
With the A1C being such a reliable test, we have so much more information about it.
I love that, because I hated the oral glucose test. Drink this, okay, wait a while, drink this.
That's right.
Didn't like that test. Yay, A1C, we like that. All right, we're talking with Dr. Sai Hassan. We're talking about type 2 diabetes. We'll be back after these messages here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.